Turtle Tracks podcast. I'm your host, Brian Van Hooker, and I'm here with Gary Carlson and Frank Fosco, the creative duo behind the image run of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which later on became the IDW's Urban Legends line, which just recently wrapped up. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Doing good.
Thanks so much for doing this, guys. Volume 3 is a book that is, I think, personal to the people who were on board for it when it ran, and certainly one of the most interesting and ambitious takes in the Turtles. So I really appreciate talking to you guys.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess to start, I wanted to find out how you guys ended up in comic books. Gary, can we start with you? How did you find what were you working on before Turtles?
Well, I started a book called Megaton back in the 80s. And that was, I spent the 80s working on Megaton. I decided at the time in 1981, there were a lot of guys at comic shows, a lot of real good artists who I couldn't believe they weren't working for Marvel and DC, and they said Marvel and DC weren't hiring. So I decided that somebody could, and I talked to a bunch of them, and first guy I asked was Mike Gustovich, and he said yes. He'd draw a story, and then I went, other guys that were in Megaton #1 were Dan Reed, Eric Larson, Mr. Fosco there, my buddy Chris Ecker, and one or two other guys. And I spent the 80s trying to get it going. I mean, it was a 64-page book, and it just was a massive amount of work getting that much stuff together for a book. I mean, the first 2 issues were 64 pages, and after that I started cutting back to 48 and finally got real smart with number 5, I think, and cut it back to a 32-page book and concentrated on the main character. But that's basically how I got into comics. I just published my way in, and other guys that came on, Angel Medina did some of his first work for me. Clark Hellbaker did. A fella named Rob Liefeld came along and published an inside front cover by him, and I think it was issue 5, and then a backup story by him in 8, and we were all set to publish a book called Young Blood, but the orders just weren't there in 87. We were kind of buried in the black and white explosion, and that's when I gave up comics for a couple years to rest.
Oh.
That's how I got into comics. That's how I met the fellas I knew.
And what about you, Frank?
That's basically I got in there with Gary. He saw my stuff on a Triad magazine, a local magazine in the Chicagoland area, a music magazine, and I had some artwork on the cover, and Gary contacted me through, he hunted me down.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I contacted Triad or just looked you up. It probably said where you lived. So
yeah. And he found me through that magazine, and back then they had the yellow pages, to the phone book. So I don't know if that's how he did it, but that's where we're from. When they used to have phone books.
Yeah, old guys.
Yeah. So, and I basically did. My character Etherian was on that Triad magazine cover, and we used that character inside Megaton. His independent book. So
you guys had worked together quite a bit before Turtles came your way.
Yes.
Very cool.
Basically the Megaton stuff, and then I guess the next thing would have been Turtles, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, in 1987, I shut down Megaton and just took a break. It had been a kind of a lot of work that decade, and a couple years later, Rob and Eric and some other guys started Image Comics, and I was briefly famous for being the place where not only they got started, but Savage Dragon was in Megaton, 2, 3, and 4, and Rob's first work, and there's Youngblood promos and stuff in the last couple issues and all around. And so 1992 people were talking Image, and they were talking Youngblood, and So that kind of got me back into comics, and it worked out okay.
All right, we started off with Megaton.
Yep.
And then we did some stuff for Eric when he launched off into Image. We did some. I was doing some backup stories for Vanguard book that was coming out, but I had some backups already drawn out. But then the book got canceled. So, but we wound up using those backups into a one shot. After a while, like 8 years later.
Is it that long? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, when did the Vanguard stuff come out? Like 93, 94?
Yeah, 93 and 4.
Yeah. So in 2000, we took those backup stories and we added more material to it and did a one-shot, 48-page one-shot called Vanguard Ethereal Warriors, featuring my character and Vanguard. And that stuff's being reprinted now in Savage Dragon.
Yep, in color.
20 years ago. So it's in color now. Back then it was in black and white, but now it's in color. Broken up into like 6-page increments. And but after I did the Vanguard stuff, which didn't get published till later, I went to work for DC doing some fill-in stuff. And Legionnaires and a couple of issues of Robin and a Superman annual. And then the Turtle stuff came along.
Now,
1996. Yeah.
Now, how did the Turtles end up at Image?
Eric knew somebody. Who did Eric know? They got him. Hey, Gary, still there?
Yeah, my video. Yeah.
Was it Kevin Dooley or?
Yeah, as far as I mean, Eric used them. They guest starred in, I think, issue 2 of the 3-issue miniseries when he first started.
Right.
And they liked his take on the Turtles and what he did with them. And apparently, his sales must have been down at Mirage. And as far as I know, they asked Eric if he wanted to publish it at Image through his Highbrow Studios. And he told him he couldn't do it. He was having a hard time getting the book out on a monthly basis, Savage Dragon. And so he told him, yeah, but, he'd have somebody do it. And that was it. He checked with Frank and I and asked if we'd be interested. And we said, sure. I mean, we worked with him. We worked with Mirage. I would send the plots and ideas to Mirage through Peter Laird, and we worked the stuff out, and I'd write them up, and Frank could draw them, and that was it. It was fairly loose, but we had people keeping track of us so we weren't doing too many stupid things. I think the main rule was no female turtles, as I recall. So, and even that we snuck one in issue whichever 10 or 11 or something.
Oh yeah, as a joke. Yeah.
Just 1 or 2 panels, but that was it. They said no female turtles. They didn't want to do that, so we said okay. I think Mirage's suggestion at the very beginning was start it with a bang and start off by killing Splinter. And we didn't buy into that. We just figured people would hate us for doing something like that. And they ended up hating us anyway. But it wasn't for killing Splinter anyway. He kind of dragged on through the whole thing. So,
well, that was one thing I wanted to ask you guys too. Was were Eastman and Laird involved at all, or so you said you just sent it through Laird? Was Eastman not there?
Peter Laird was. I don't recall working with Eastman at all back then.
Okay. And Larson, which is kind of like what ran through him as well, because I think Larson and Dooney did Savage Dragon together, if I'm not mistaken, in like '93, I think.
That could be. I do not know.
Okay.
I think they did like a little one-shot story.
Yeah, could be.
And Larson kind of oversaw the book as well, because I'm trying. What was his role in it?
Editor-in-chief. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of overseeing things and
just
having fun looking at the stuff. He was inking the covers. He was inking the covers. I was penciling. So from issues 3 to 23, he inked all the covers.
He inked the first issue, didn't
he? He was involved with the, kind of watching, overseeing what we were doing, and inking the covers.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny. I have the original Image issues, which I'd gotten into probably in the early 2000s when I worked at a comic shop, and I'm rereading. I just finished rereading them, and I was going back to like the letters section, and it's such a weird time capsule because you guys started in such a weird place in Turtle history. Like the cartoon didn't end yet, but it was clearly ending.
Yeah.
And then Next Mutation was on the horizon. So like there's letters in there like saying, "Are you guys adding a female turtle?" and stuff like that. And you, Gary, saying, "No, there's no female turtle going to be in the book," and like all these things saying, "No, we're not doing that." Like Next Mutation comes and goes, and it's weird to read the letters to see like what time this was in turtle history. It's very strange.
Yeah, the turtles were only 12 years old when Gary and I took over on them. What, they're 35 now?
Yeah. So, and the idea, it was don't do the cartoon turtles. I mean, really and truly, I thought the idea was to go back to the roots, the early, and that's what we did. I mean, Eric asked if I'd want to write it. I went out and bought all the issues that were available at that point. And after I finally tracked them all down, I got a box in the mail with with the comics in it, and I sent them on to Frank. So, so we both had reference, but yeah, I mean, I just took a look and said, okay, they don't want us to do that stuff. I don't want to do that stuff, and kind of keyed in on what the City at War and one or two of the Eastman and Laird ones, and said, okay, we'll go kind of this direction, and that's pretty much what I did, sent it in and got okayed, and off we went.
Yeah.
Well, your take was intended to be the extension of Volume 2, right? Like Volume 2 was only a handful of issues that are in color, but like it was meant to continue off of the events that Eastman and Laird, et cetera, had done in Volumes 1 and 2, right?
I can't guarantee that. We were looking to go right on from that. No, okay. I'd have to look back and see what was in there. Like I said, I was kind of keying off some of the Eastman and Laird direct stuff, So,
City at War, whatnot. Yeah, I think we kind of did our own thing. I got those books from Gary, and I kind of looked them over real quick, but we kind of just did our own thing, while trying to stay true to the
concept,
spirit of the turtles, But yeah, but then we turned them on their head and inside out, and had fun with them. And some people loved it, and some people thought, what we did to Donnie is like we kicked the house pet or something, So
yeah.
I mean, what you guys did, though, like I said, is one of the most ambitious takes. I mean, like you kind of. Starting with Donnie, but you turned Donatello into a cyborg. Did you want to say anything about Cyborg Donnie? Because he's one of the most different, cool takes that Donnie's ever had. So
it was just, the first issue, we were supposed to be color, right, Frank?
Yes.
And then orders came in, and all of a sudden it was a black and white book.
Yeah.
But even before that, I mean, we were told they were all going to be wearing the red bandanas.
Yeah.
And especially in a black and white book, Eric requested something to go on so you could tell which turtle was which without them holding their weapons all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where we did it. I mean, Donatello became a cyborg because Donatello does machines. I mean, as close as we got to the cartoon was, Mike was the party guy, Leo was the leader, Ralph was kind of an aggressive jerk, and Donatello does machines. So he became a cyborg. It kind of tied in. We didn't do it to, Raphael's face got blasted off in the beginning. We didn't do it to be jerks or anything. That really was the, part of the making them different. Yeah, Ralph's face got blasted, and he was wearing one of Casey's masks, and that's pretty much how that stuff came about. I mean, a lot of people complained about the destruction. We just figured, geez, they're fighting and whatever, they're going to get injured. So
I think when we brought them back and having them reprint in IDW, I think we kind of got like a little resurgence in the popularity with them, because they're really liking what we did. And the editor over at IDW, Megan, she really loved what we were doing. And if she has her way, there might be a part 2.
Oh, wow.
If she has her way. No, we're not holding our breath or anything like that, but hey, whatever, so. But yeah, we had fun doing what we did with them. Some people came around to the Donatello thing after a while, revisiting it again, because a lot of these kids that saw the stuff back in the 90s are in their 40s now, and now they're kind of rehearsing and rereading this stuff and looking at it again. Now it's in color, and I think some of them came around and really liked what we did. You're still going to have your hardcore, don't mess with my turtles, but
yeah. Well, I mean, and what was going on back then? I mean, like I said, the main thing, the movies were out, the cartoons were out, and we weren't doing those versions of the Turtles. I mean, we were told not to, and we'd go to comic store signings, and people would be bringing their 5-year-old kids in, and we'd say, don't know if you want to show your kid these books. It's pretty violent. Oh, no, the Turtles, that's okay. It's like, okay. All we heard over the years was, you're doing that Image style violence and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't know that we were really influenced by the Image style violence or anything. Frank wasn't drawing like Rob or anybody, we were just trying to tell some stories.
I don't see it as any more violent than the original few books were, to be honest.
Well, I didn't think so either. I mean, short of some of the mutilations there, but
yeah,
that stuff happened, and they lived with it and went on. I mean, it didn't keep happening. It just, kind of happened, and they either got better or were, they all along they were getting better. They just didn't know that, as the whole thing turned out, that the AI cyborg machinery was stunting his recovering from it. So anyway.
I mean, when you go back and read those original Mirage books too, and I love them, but like in so many of the panels, you have no idea which turtle's which.
True.
So I think differentiating them is a logical, and for a black and white book, I mean, you guys found interesting ways to do that. I mean, Raph and the Casey mask is an image that I love, and then later on, of course, you had Raphael becoming Shredder. I mean, was that something that people revolted against too?
I didn't hear anyone complain about that. It just kind of made sense. I mean, Shredder got killed, and he was such a big part of it. It's like, have him in there,
Yeah. When cover 13, they couldn't even tell that was Raph. You just see like a red mask in his hand. And if you look at the shape of the shell in front, and the guy's kind of got the squatness and the size of a turtle. So, but yeah,
it's a great image. I mean, like that, and not for nothing, but those two, I feel like those two are the most notable things that people took away, Splinter Raphael and Cyborg Donnie, both of which have been used elsewhere too. Like Cyborg Donatello has been used similarly in the latest IDW run when Donatello became Metalhead for a bit, and even now he's got a metal shell years later. And in the 2012 series, he became a cyborg on the and Nickelodeon, and then Shredder Raph was even thrown into the 2003 series, if I'm not mistaken. So those ideas permeated later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really followed what anybody else was doing afterwards, or didn't really follow them much in the beginning.
Sure.
I kind of looked into them when it became our turn to do them. It's like, okay, I guess we should get to know these guys a little bit,
Yep.
And when they first came out, I thought it was just a silly, goofy idea. You know, Gary and I were doing our own thing with Megaton, you know, with E3 and stuff like that. And Turtles came out, I was like, what the heck is this? And that was part of the black and white glove at the time, too. But then, you know, they took off, and my kids dug them. And, you know, when Eric made the call for us to do the Turtles, it was like, hey, you know what? My kids like, I might as well check it out and see what we can do with them. And
yeah, that's it. And yet, like I said, they were kind of on a downward trend. I'd tell people, oh, I'm going to be writing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And people actually said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was like, God.
Yeah. Jeez. It almost felt like you're putting a nail in your coffin in the comic biz, you know,
Yeah.
with other companies. You know, if you want to work for Marvel or DC, you're doing the Turtles. It's like some kind of taboo or something. No, you know, but you know what? They're as iconic as Superman and Mickey Mouse, you know?
You got it.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing too I wanted to mention was, you know, I think I failed to realize this the first go around, but when I reread it, you know, over the last couple of weeks, I really like what you did with Leo. Like the team, the Turtles in that whole series don't function as a team. Like,
Right.
the stories about them kind of growing apart, and Leo becomes kind of a bitter jerk about it, which makes a lot of sense. So I mean, like, I don't think I appreciate the first go around, but what you did with Leonardo is really interesting because he doesn't know what to do when he's not leading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how he went. I mean, Raph was forever butting heads with him, and later on, Mike gets kind of distracted and he helps out and stuff, but he's more interested in his writing and all. So, and yeah,
Jeff was always kind of wanting to usurp Leo's leadership.
Yep.
And so he kind of got around that by becoming the Shredder, you know?
Yeah.
Go lead the foot. So he kind of found leadership somewhere else and kind of maybe left a bad taste in Leo's mouth, thinking, you know what, I'm supposed to be the leader of this group, and what's going on here? You're kind of going off with these guys over here. You know, I thought you were with us, but, you know, we had fun doing them. It was cool.
That image of Raphael as Shredder too is one of those ones that just, like, again, sticks with me. I'm a huge action figure collector, which you probably can see behind me, and that's one thing I've always wanted as a toy is just Raphael decked up in Shredder gear. I'm still waiting for the day, but it's such a cool take on both Raph and Shredder, and it's just one of those things that makes, like I said, your run so, like, ambitious, which I really...
Cyberdon.
Yeah, Cyborg Don too.
That's what we call it. We call him Cyberdon.
Cyberdon, sorry. Those two I would love to. Like, I just think that they're just cool takes, and then eventually Leo lost his arm, but, I mean... And I like, you know, even with some of what you guys did with Michelangelo is what other people would do later on too, where he's always been the most sensitive of the bunch, or at least
He's a romantic.
Yeah, and also, like, he's not, you know, do we always have to fight all the time? You know, they're always constantly getting, like, looking for trouble, and what happens when one of them doesn't want to do that all the time? So
he wants to write books.
Yeah. And you guys did some cool stuff with Leatherhead, where he was degenerating and then zapped off into space. Did you ever have any plans to kind of come back and figure out, well, what happened to Leatherhead?
We'll have to find out in Urban Legends too.
All right.
Just throwing it out there. They kind of want to know if Raph's face is going to heal. Well, we didn't get far enough there. Maybe it's a slower process when it's burnt, but I think we will eventually have him heal up, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe a little scar, whatever. But
did you want to say anything about Splinter as a bat?
What was that?
Did you want to say anything about Splinter turning into a bat?
That was Gary's idea.
Yeah, it was just
instead of killing him off, we turned him into a bat.
Yeah. It just kind of led to the Night Watchman story, and
that was a cool take. Like I said, everything was a cool take and just different stuff. I mean, it's not something you like. I saw, again, looking at the letters page, you had some people being like, "Oh, what have you done to Splinter? You've ruined him, whatever." And it's like it's a story. He changes back. Like, it's not like he didn't keep the wings forever. So like even you were saying, like, in the letters, like it's I'm wrapping up the story. It's fine. Don't worry, everybody. And it's
Yeah.
Well, that was it, you know. I don't know, even people that I knew, I mean, I'd send them the books, and they'd say, "Oh, thanks," you know. And geez, 2 years after the book was canceled, I heard back from some. They're like, "I finally got around to reading these. They were a lot of fun. They were like a great Marvel book where every issue led to the next one and kept you wanting more." And I was like, "Well, thanks, but you're a couple of years late."
Yeah, so was I. I probably got them. Let's see, I was in high school, so it was probably around 01, 02. Maybe I started, and my comic shop had the whole run, and that was the first time I discovered it. Was 2-3 years after it was already gone. So
Yep.
Yeah, it was short lived. Another thing we also did that wasn't very done often with the turtles is like leaving their masks off. Them not wearing their masks. That was kind of our thing that we did. And it's like, you know, the only reason they should have their mask on is when they're in ninja mode. They're ready to battle or go on the prowl. So I would leave their masks off when they were kind of just relaxed and just about doing their own, you know, hanging out and stuff like that. You know, well, why are you always wearing your mask? So I took the mask off of them. And
I always like that, like when they're eating breakfast and stuff. Like, why?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You're in a mask
on before you eat. Oh, now we got a different kind of mask to tell us to put our mask on.
Yeah.
That way they can tell each other apart.
So.
And Frank, I wanted to give you a shout out. I don't know if you remember drawing this, but in issue, I just stumbled upon an issue number 20, Splinter watching South Park, which I thought was hysterical.
Oh yeah, was it South Park? Oh yeah, it was South Park, wasn't it? Yeah.
You threw Splinter in watching South Park, which was amazing.
Yeah. Kind of, it tells you how old South Park is now too. Wow.
Jeez.
They were around that long. Wow. Okay.
So in 99, the book was, so it started in 96, and the last issue was in October 99. So like, who canceled the book? Was it Image, or did Mirage pull the plug? Like, why did it end?
I don't know if Mirage was looking to get restarted, but I know the sales were low. I mean, even from the first issue, they were lower than expected, you know? And they kept going down. I mean, I think from issue 15 on, we kind of figured every issue could be the last one. And we, you know, it dragged on for another 8 issues or so. And finally they're like, okay, this one's it.
Yeah.
And we were done. I think we got a little slower and slower getting them out just because we kind of figured, well, we're done. It's like, nope, they need this one. We'll finish this one up. We'll finish that one up. So that was just my take on it.
Yeah, maybe 23 issues.
Yeah.
And then and it ends with, I mean, it doesn't even end with the cliffhanger, but it does end with, like, you did make an effort to wrap it back up because it was another kind of bookend birthday party thing.
Yep.
It was like a logical place, but there was still so much to explore. So, you know, some 20 some odd years later, do you guys recall getting the call from IDW about wanting to return?
No, it started earlier than that. I think it was when Andrew Modine put out his own 2-part conclusion.
Oh,
I really think that had as much to do with it as anything, that it brought it to a certain amount of people's attention. I mean, he asked, you know, he contacted us, asked if we'd mind. I was like, I don't care, you know. I told him a lot of the things we were planning on doing to tie it up, and he went and did it, you know, and it wasn't necessarily the way I would have done it or what I would have done, but it was fun. But I think it helped get turtle fandom thinking about it, you know.
Yeah.
And then once not IDW, but whoever it is that bought the turtles, I think they just figured
Viacom.
Yeah, Viacom. There's 23 issues sitting there that we could reprint, so they checked with us and asked if we'd be interested, and we both said yeah. And you know, it was 2 or 3 years. I think that was Kevin Eastman had a big part.
Yeah, Kevin was in our corner. Kevin was in our corner. He wanted to see that stuff reprinted. But IDW was going through the whole catalog library of turtle stuff. We print all the old stuff, and they finally got to us, and so they were planning on doing it regardless. but Kevin was really in our corner. So Kevin did a lot of the covers, variant covers, and he did them all actually.
Yep.
Oh, very cool. I was curious, and I was going to ask you guys about the fan issues. I mean, so you did have some input.
Yeah, some input. Yeah, we had. I did covers for those books, and Kevin inked one of the covers. Kevin Eastman, the double page, front and back cover.
Sure, I didn't realize that.
Kevin Eastman, and I did a couple of page layouts for Arsini, who's in Russia. Kind of took my layouts and drew, penciled them and inked them up, and we kind of had some input. Gary gave Andrew some notes, and I did some layouts for Andrew and for Arsini. Those are the guys who
those who didn't know about it. Like there's you can find them digitally because I just tracked them down. Actually, my sound engineer, a guy named Ian Williams, tracked them down for me online, and I had read them for the first time. Like after I finished your guys' run, then I checked out what might have been there. And there's a lot of stuff that is similar to it, which I was like, okay, there must be some input from you guys. So I was curious about what that was. So
he asked what we had planned to do. I said, well, as I recall, this is how we're going to tie it up. And he went with it. When IDW checked in with us, I was like, well, I didn't want to do exactly what he had done. I think I took a quick look, but then got out the notes and tried to keep it somewhat different,
Did you, so you guys did 3 issues. Was it like you guys looked at your old notes and figured out this is what the story would have been, or did any new ideas kind of come into the fray when you restarted up?
I don't know, took a look at the notes and said, okay, let's do this. I don't know that we were trying to make it a continuation of the other one, so we weren't, necessarily looking to do anything real different that I recall. I mean, nobody said, I don't remember. Did they tell us not to do anything, Frank, on the new ones?
I think we kind of did our own thing. Andrew and Arsini kind of try to tie it into the continuity of.
He helped me.
Yeah, into the kind of be a transition between volume. We were volume 2 and volume 4 was going on at the same time, wasn't it? As it wasn't he.
Could
Peter
be.
Peter was still doing some books, the Renters Turtles or whatever they were doing, and. Andrew tried to tie in when he did their fan take on it, those 2 issues. Andrew tried to tie in between, beat a bridge in between both volumes, volume 2 and volume 4, and just kind of tie it all together.
Yeah, because volume 4, which was Peter Laird's book in the
right. So he tried to transition to that. I mean, he had Baxter. What the heck's the guy's name?
Stockman, the robot.
Baxter. He tied him into to their story, Andrew and Arsini. And Gary and I, we kind of just did our own thing as far as to conclude it. But, Gary knows more about the story than I do, so he might get some of the stuff.
Yeah, X amount of space. So we did, and even there, though, I sent the scripts on to Andrew, and he did help with a couple of twists and help us, get closer to the other continuity, and it was, great.
Did you always plan to bring back like Donnie minus the robot stuff and Leo's hand? Was that always in the cards?
I think we were working toward that way back then. Yeah.
We might have come with a different concept as far as had a different thing about the cyborg stuff in mind. It might have been like a government thing or an alien thing. But kind of went away from that and kind of just, what Shredder and the King Komodo, Warlord Komodo, had something going on. So where they got the technology from, we really didn't get into that. So
nope.
So we still don't know where exactly that technology came from.
No.
For Urban Legends Part 2, that'll be.
Yeah. See?
What was it like seeing these issues in color for the first time so many years ago?
I liked it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, Yeah, I got a lot of people who go, I wish it would have been black and white. And I said, man, I've seen it in black and white for 20 years. I was ready for color.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be in color in the first place. Because when I drew that first issue back in '96, it was so over rendered. I mean, it was I don't know about over rendered. It was rendered for color, you know. So I was drawing for color, and Eric Larson inked that first issue. But
well, Frank, that's a question for you. Like, how does drawing for color, drawing for black and white, like, how does that affect your styling in any way?
Well, you know, when you're drawing for color, everything's gonna be separated. You check out your elements and all your figure work in color, you know, so everything's kind of separated. So you can tell the foreground from the background, stuff like that. And when you start rendering too much in black and white, thinking it's going to be in color, then something gets lost and, you know, confused in black and white sometimes. So I adapted to try and draw more like start, you know, negative and positive space, you know, spot in my blacks and make it negative areas, make it more reader friendly visually, you know, so you can to adapt it to the black and white. So trying to simplify it to make it more a lot less rendering, a lot less cross hatching or not over hatching and stuff like that. Just look at it and you can see what's going on.
Sure, because you won't have the color to aid you to do that.
Yeah. But then you know what? When it did it like that, even back then, to see it in color now, it still looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it even works in color. Just, you know, think you're drawing for black and white, but then, you know, basically you're always drawing in black and white anyway.
Yeah.
Color's always added. So.
Oh yeah.
And
I only have 50 issues, only 20. Like I said, I have all the originals, so I only got 24 through 26. And there is a part of me that's like, you know, they would be cool to have in color too. Like they do look great like that.
I have it black and white too.
Yeah, I have the originals.
So to 24 and 26.
No. I'm saying like part of me, because I have 24, 25, 26 in color, part of me is like tempted to go back and buy all the ones in color.
So you don't have the first 23 in color. Okay.
No, I just have the original image run that I've had in my.
You're lost.
It does look great. They really do look great.
It looks cool in color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks cool in color. Yeah. But you know,
I wanted to ask you guys, unless you do you have anything you want to talk about, like ideas you'd still like to address, maybe if a sequel ever comes your way, or do you want to save those for another day?
Well, we really haven't discussed it. We're not until we hear something, we haven't really talked about it.
No.
Sure.
No. But Gary and I, we always come up with something. If they want us to do something, we'll come up with something.
Yep.
We'll wow them with something else. You know. And I think we got a pretty good good reception with what we did for these last 3 issues and bringing it back, and it felt good. It was nice to revisit.
Yep.
I feel like you guys are getting the praise now that you deserve, 20 some odd years ago, because it is a cool take on the Turtles, and it's something that's, at the time Turtles was on the downswing, and I guess it just wasn't cool anymore. But like, it's cool to see now people appreciating a book that, again, I discovered almost 20 years ago and was like, no, these are really cool takes. But it's nice to see that happening now. So it's cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was weird going to different shows. I mean, out in Detroit, there were a lot of fans showing up, but for even the ones that were fans of what we were doing were more into the cartoons and stuff. So
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, a lot of kids grew up with the cartoon or the movie. Even the toys, Fisher Price toys and all that, the marketing. A lot of people didn't realize there was Turtle comics.
I grew up with the cartoon, and I probably didn't get the Mirage comics till I was a teen.
Yeah. Into
the 90s, and then again, I discovered your book when I was in high school. So it took me a while to find out there's anything aside from the goofy, lovable cartoon.
Bunga.
Yeah, all that shit.
Yep.
So, Brian, were you happy the way we resolved the series?
I was very much so. Yeah. I didn't know what we were going to do with Lady Shredder. I figured, okay, it's going to be Karai. There's no way it couldn't be Karai. So I liked it being somebody other than what I expected. I think you should keep Raph with one eye if you ever go back. I like the one eye look. I think it looks cool. I really liked it. Like I said, I think some of the coolest stuff. And again, I don't know what it was, but Leo turning into kind of a loner dick was kind of cool for me. Not something you get a chance to see because again, they hardly function as a team in the whole run in a really interesting way. So I love seeing it resolved, and I like Pimiko. I'm not sure how to say the name.
Oh yeah,
she's a great character, and seeing her kind of come full circle from a villain to an ally, I really enjoyed the whole run. And when I heard it was coming back and a few issues for a wrap up, I was all about it, and I love the result. It was great.
Good. Glad
Thank
to
you.
hear it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that thought was resolved nicely, you know.
Oh yeah.
So,
last thing I want to ask you guys is who your favorite turtle is. Gary, do you have a favorite?
Probably Michelangelo. I enjoyed him. He got the girls.
Yeah, he did.
He did, yeah, and showed his sensitive side. I think he was probably close to. I mean, if I've got a favorite, you know, and not by much, but yeah, I enjoyed doing some of that stuff.
Frank?
you know, I can't really say which one's my favorite. I feel like you draw 130, you're drawing them all, but you know, we mixed them up different enough to where they're all very individual. So, I mean, you know, we talk about, you know, to differentiate them by doing this stuff to disfigure them or put them make them a cyborg, and you know, one loses a hand. But you can draw them in body language too, and how they carry themselves. You can identify them that way too, you know. So if they would still look the same, like drawing one turtle, you draw them all. I mean, I make Raph a little bit shorter than everybody, the rest of them, but he's a tough little guy.
Yeah.
And you know, Mikey carries himself in a little more exuberant, and Leo's got attitude, and Mikey's got that whimsical, you know, always wanting to explore type figure. You know,
yeah.
So, you can kind of do it in body language and stuff too. But I think we kept Donatello bigger than the rest of them too after he lost the armor.
Yep.
So I make him like maybe 6 inches taller than the rest of them, because you know his spine's been elongated. He's got that metal shell on him now. So so we made him a little bit bigger still.
Well,
but yeah, I can't really say which one's my favorite. I mean, I kind of like them all for different reasons, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can't have one without the rest. I mean, that's an answer I've got. I've done a couple dozen of these, and that's an answer I've gotten a lot. Is it's impossible to just pick one because they're all
like your children
unit. Yeah. You know.
I can't take claim for creating them though. So.
Nope.
And so I can't take claim for creating them. That's Kevin Leishman and Peter Laird's thing.
Well, again, guys, I that kind of wraps it up for me. I just wanted to thank you so much for talking to me, and I'm so glad that we got some more of those turtles, and I hope for more in the future. And again, I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for having us.